Hello, hello, hello. Good morning, good evening, good night, good afternoon. Greetings wherever you may be. This is Melissa with Melissa K. Hart and Tools Therapeutic Services. For those of you who don't know me, I am a simple individual that is saved by the grace of God, loves the Lord with all my heart, and I am on a mission and I am living on purpose to bring the gospel to whoever will listen to me. Hopefully, you will by the end of this recording, or whoever God allows me to minister to and crosses my path. But I'm also a licensed therapist. I work in the mental health profession for several years, school counseling, you name it. I've been there, done that, and much, much more to come, I'm sure. I'm also a mom, a caretaker, a sister, a niece, a cousin, or whatever. Ultimately, y'all, tonight is just going to be a quick talk, real talk for the saints. It's a lot going on in this time of year. It's the holiday season. Depending on when you're watching this, it is 10 days until Christmas. Woo-hoo. And in case, yes, you can't tell, I am a Christmas baby. I'm a December baby, and I celebrate the whole month. I have friends that say that's being selfish, but guess what? I don't care. I love y'all and y'all love me. And you know that I celebrate the entire month of December. If you don't celebrate the entire month for your birth month, that's fine. That's you. You do you. I'm going to do me. But we going to celebrate all month. Merry Christmas. Happy birthday, all the December babies. You're amazing. Anyway, so tonight, this recording, very, very quickly, there are a few things that I just wanted to encourage. I'll put it that way. I will encourage us not to say or use the spirit of discernment when we are talking to individuals, especially during this holiday season. I started to title this something different, but hey, it is what it is. There's a lot going on. Let's be for real. We are seeing so many things in this world that some of us have never seen before. This may be, unfortunately, a repeat of things that have happened in the past, and it's traumatizing. It is what it is. But sometimes, especially all of us church folk, or those of us that has been raised in church for years or since the womb, there's certain phrases and sayings or lingos that we use, especially when we're talking to someone who may be going through. We know what that means. Someone may be at the altar and they're praying or crying or weeping, rejoicing. We don't know, but we assume that they're going through, especially if they're there multiple times. Now, hey, maybe they are. And most of the time when that happens, yes, we are trying whatever means necessary to get closer to God and sometimes literally leaving our problems at the altar. But then, we have some folks that will come and say things like, God just, especially if there's grief involved, right? They just lost a loved one. God just wanted another angel in heaven. So we probably missed the part where God created the angels, and there's a lot of them. Ultimately, yes, we are all going to pass on and transition. And I pray that if you don't know where you're going to end up after you take that final breath, I pray that you have an encounter and that you will know that Jesus is madly in love with you and he died on the cross for you and he wants you to be with him forever and ever in heaven. And if you don't know who I'm talking about, feel free to leave a message in the comment section. We'll talk later. But God doesn't call people to become angels. Okay. Neither does that phrase help in any way, shape, or form. Another one that sometimes, we may use is that, just give it time. We understand that you've lost a loved one, Or, just give it time. You'll find somebody new. If someone is going through divorce or has gone through losing someone not losing, but maybe broke up in, a relationship, whatever the case may be. Just give it time. You'll find something new after being laid off your job that you've been putting your blood, sweat, tears, and everything else, sacrificing time with family and friends. And then they just said, forget it. You're not worth it. You can go home. Just give it time. Now, we mean well. And I've said some of these things too. So please don't think this is, a judgment call and I'm just some random person telling you what to do and what not to do. But this came out because in talking to some of my clients, there are just different things that have come up on repeat. Like I can push the button and repeat. It's the same stuff over and over again. And it's mostly individuals that are serving in ministry or, we're active and maybe not as active right now. And people just don't know what to say other than another phrase that comes up from time to time is, just give it to Jesus. He'll take care of it. 9 times out of 10, that's what I've been doing. Giving it to Jesus. But it may not seem like I have because I may still be weeping. I may still be silent or quiet or maybe, not my usual self, That doesn't mean they haven't given it to him. That doesn't mean they haven't been praying about it. And so, I just want to encourage my fellow saints and friends to be mindful when you're speaking with people, especially if you can tell that, yes, something's going on. Maybe their countenance have changed. They're not as happy-go-lucky. They're not smiling as much as they used to. Or maybe you're aware of what is going on, and rather than maybe even criticizing what they're doing, for example, there are many people that are posting pictures or taking family photos, talking about their children, what they're going to get their kids, and this, that, and the other. And there may be someone that is having a challenge having children. And again, a statement that sometimes is often said, especially to women, so when you going to get married and have some kids? Or, you're not as young as you used to be. No duh, Sherlock. Before I get smart, let me bring it back in, Melissa. But those things sometimes are said and you may not even mean anything by it, or, it may be in a joking manner. But there are people that are truly having a difficult time, especially this time of year, because of circumstances such as not being able to have children. There are some couples that have been trying and may have tried infertility treatments in various situations. And just hearing those words or hearing that phrase, it's like taking a knife and just stabbing them in the heart all over again. Just saying. Maybe you're not aware of that. Maybe, you didn't really think of it that way because dang, Melissa, that's kind of harsh, but that's the reality. I'll be fully transparent. Before I had my daughter, there was a period of time I'm like, well, Lord, time's running. I know I'm not as young as I used to be, and things don't always happen the way that you want them. When am I going to have a child? I desire to have a child. I desire to have more than one. And at the time, I was married. So it's not like I was out here just running around, giving it up to everybody that wanted it, or just because I wanted a kid, hey, can we figure something out? That wasn't the case. But yet there were others around me having kids left, right, center, whatever direction you could think of. And I'm like, God, hello. Hey, it's me, oh Lord, standing in the need of a kid. And it was very painful year after year to not have that fulfillment and still doing all the right things, at least to my knowledge, um, even to the point of going to a reproductive specialist and trying to figure out what in the world is going on. Is something wrong medically? Is something wrong physically, emotionally? Like, what is it? So we can fix it. And it took several years before beautiful baby girl came along. But during those years, number one, I will say, I also worked at that time with population of young women who were having children, had multiple children, and wasn't taking care of them. Sometimes had to go to court to testify on behalf of the children that I was servicing and why they should or should not be with their parent and or should be in a foster home or whatever the case may be. So at the same time, I'm servicing children and trying to be their voice and be their support because their parents weren't doing the right things by them. And yet that I couldn't, share that testimony of being a mom in that moment. And during those times, there were people that would say, oh, just don't worry about it. God knows your heart. Or, like I said, you're getting older. You need to be working on it. You you don't think you don't think that's what I'm trying to do. Or what was my favorite? Ooh, if it doesn't work out, just adopt. Nothing wrong with adopting. And actually, I got to that point where, what, if this is not gonna happen naturally, then I'd be open to adopting because, again, like I said, I worked with so many children that were not wanted. And yet, every time something was said, or every time there was a question, or it was, just give it to Jesus. Really pray about it. Go on a fast. Did that many times too. And ultimately, it still, it was just okay, thank you, was my response. Because I could not express the devastation that I felt hearing those words. And there are some people that are truly struggling with a loss, maybe because of a miscarriage, maybe because of more than one. They're struggling because, unfortunately, individuals are not faithful, or they're struggling because they're recognizing that medically it's not possible. Now, caveat, man may say it's not possible. God is going to say it's possible. But there's also some other things in there that usually needs to be worked out. So now don't come at me like, okay, God is the God of all things. And if you want to be pregnant and you want to have a child, it can happen because he can do it. Yes, he can. And yes, he did. That's a whole nother, video I'm going to have to do on that. But the point is, in the meantime and in between time, when you know that someone's going through, especially when it comes to infertility, or especially when it comes to a loss of any kind, be mindful of the words that you use or the phrases. If anything, especially when it comes to, wanting to encourage, say, how can I pray for you? Because sometimes what we think is the way that we should pray is not really helpful. Because we'll say, well, I'm going to pray that God give you X, Y, and Z and a middle P. But that might not be the prayer that really needs to be prayed. It may be that, hey, I just need prayer for strength. Or I may need prayer for faith because my faith is wavering, going years and years and years, without seeing results. Maybe that's what they need. Or someone, again, has been let go from a job and, we may say things like, well, have you applied anywhere? Naturally, there are some people that are just lazy and they're not going to do nothing because they feel like a job should just fall out the sky and, there it is. However, if you know the type of person that you're talking to and you know that they are a go-getter, they are a hard worker, more than likely they've been applying multiple places. So let's not insult them. If anything, hey, how can I help you broaden your search? Where have you looked? So I can continue to keep my eyes. Or what avenues or what, fields are you looking into? So I can pray that those open. That's the kind of thing, the kind of conversation we want to have. Because that brings encouragement. That brings a little bit of peace and that helps them But when we say things like, oh, well, just be strong, you'll figure it out. Depending on where they are at that moment, you may just get a, uh-huh, the faithful head nod with a half smile. Or you may say, thank you. Yeah, I'll think about that. The sarcastic, response. While internally they're probably screaming and yelling at you and asking God to forgive them for cussing you out in their head. I'm just saying, it's the truth, y'all. And y'all know it because some of y'all do it. But anyway, it's not about that. This is just about being mindful, especially with the holidays. Lastly, I do want to also encourage my parents out there. Whether you're a single parent, whether you're a step parent, whether you're a parent with, a spouse, at the end of the day, I do want to also encourage you to not beat yourselves up this time of year. I know this is titled something else of what not to say when others are grieving, but here is something too, just a little caveat because I need to just sprinkle this in there. Parents, if your children are expressing loss, for example, maybe their friend is moving away. There's sometimes a lot of movement around the holidays. Your child may say that they feel sad because they're going to miss their teacher, depending on the age. They think that they're not going to see their teacher for 2 days and the world's coming to an end, which is a good thing because that means they've created a good bond with them. But anyway, I digress. If your children are expressing grief or expressing, that there's a loss that they're concerned about or they're crying or whatever the case may be, let's not diminish their feelings or what they're expressing because to them it is a loss. Again, depending on the age. If they're a teenager or preteen and there was someone that they liked and now they don't like them or they found out that person likes somebody else, maybe 2 weeks later they're talking about somebody else and you're just like, look, you were just talking about Susie, now you're talking about Sarah. Like, and then 2 weeks later it's Shannon, or you were talking about John, now you're talking about Ray. Like, pick somebody. But to them, if it's a loss, it's a loss. Give them time to talk about it. Like, allow time to talk about it. And they may just say, I don't want to talk about it, or you wouldn't understand. They're teenagers. They're going to say that regardless. But you want to encourage them to talk. Or if they don't want to talk, tell them to write it to you. Tell them to text it to you. Ask open-ended questions. Because the other important factor is some of our teens, our preteens, even some of our young people as early as 5 and 6, well, I'll say 6 and 7 years old, they're being bombarded with so many different things these days that now more than ever, the thought of suicide is there. You may say, oh, my child's only 6, my child's only 7, 8, 9, 10. They don't know what that is. Sorry to break it to you. Most of them do, unfortunately, because it is being presented in multiple ways. It's being presented on social media. It's being presented in songs and lyrics and conversations that they're having with friends. Or sometimes it's even just a statement that they're hearing over and over again as a joke, where somebody may say something, they will say it's stupid, and they say, oh man, just go kill yourself. Believe it or not, those words are seeds, and those words can be planted in your child and they sit there for a moment until something happens where they experience a loss. And those words come back to them like, oh, well, if they don't like me and such told me to go kill myself or go jump off a bridge or run in front of a car or whatever, and now I'm finding out that he really didn't like me. He was just trying to get my number because he wanted somebody else's number. Or she really didn't care for me because she was laughing at me in gym or whatever, situations and scenarios come up. Those words come back and now they're growing and they're growing. And now they feel that they're not worth anything. And before you know it, you may or may not, and I pray this never happens to you, but being in the field that I've been for so long, and even being in the school system that I've been in for so long, even just this month, we've had several conversations with young people about not feeling like anyone cares for them. And some of them have experienced some trauma. Some of them have experienced abuse. Some of them have not. Some of them have what you would consider a stable home, but yet they still feel like something's wrong with them. And so because of what their grief is, and it's sometimes not taken seriously by any adult or friends, family members, they feel like they're carrying it by themselves. And because they're carrying it by themselves, now here comes the enemy and making it magnified 10 times more. And those words come back, they take deeper root. Somehow, some way, something comes along and it's like, hey, this is how you can just go to sleep and not wake up. Take these pills, take 20 of them. This is not what you should do. Take that razor and cut yourself this way. You'll feel better. You'll be surprised how certain things somehow find their way and weasel their way into their minds. And now it becomes part of their belief system that this is okay to feel this way. And it's okay to have these thoughts, or they may know it's not okay. But guess what? Now they feel like this is something I have to do because nobody cares. Nobody wants to hear me. Nobody believes that I'm sad about X, Y, and Z. So even when it comes to our children and our young people, if any of them give you any indication that they are not well, that they don't feel well, that, emotions, it may seem like emotions are all over the place. But once they mention to you that they don't feel like they don't see themselves within the next 5 days, 5 years, 10 years, or that, they feel sad a lot and they don't know what to do with it, or sometimes they do think of just going to sleep and not waking back up, guess what? They need help. It's time to get them help. I'm not saying don't pray about it. Please, absolutely do pray. Absolutely get that oil out and rebuke all of that, because somewhere along the line, again, something was planted and has taken root, and it does need to be uprooted. At the same time, just as you would if that child broke their leg or broke their arm or something was going on and they felt like they had cramps that would not stop, 9 times out of 10, you would take them to the emergency room, would you not? Let's be for real. If your child was sitting there with a broken finger, you would take them to the emergency room. So just as you would be as swift with a medical emergency, their wellness and their mental health is just as important. Just because we can't see it on the outside doesn't mean it's not as crucial on the inside. And that goes for adults as well. Our wellness is something that is pushed under the table. Of course, with the lockdowns and everything else that came up, it was magnified for a period of time. But you don't hear as much about it as we did a few years ago. And that was just a year or 2.5 years ago. Now, all of a sudden, it's kind of on to the next. But this up here and this here is crucial to make sure that it is in one accord, not only with your well-being, but also your safety. So I'm encouraging everyone this season, this holiday season, or whenever you're seeing this, to number one, be mindful of what we're saying to people. Again, saints and friends, there's a lot of things that we can make, Bible that's not really Bible. But If you are going to try to encourage someone that's in the faith, use discernment. And if you don't know what to say, don't say anything. Sometimes they just need you to be present and just be there. Maybe they just need a hug. That's it. That's all they need. And if you say, I'm praying for you, really pray for them. Maybe even ask them, how can I pray for you? Not what can I pray for, but how can I pray for you? And let them tell you. They may just say, just keep me in your prayers. That should tell you right there, they're not going to tell you. Don't ask too many questions. Let the Lord tell you, if anything. If He wants you to know, He'll let you know. But number one, be mindful in what we say and how we say things to each other and to anyone, because you just don't know what people are carrying. You just don't know what is really going on internally. And that one thing could be the very thing that sends them somewhere else. And we don't want that to happen. Number two, in addition to being mindful, number two, encouraging you to use those listening skills. Listen to your children. Listen to your young adults. Listen to your spouse. Listen to your friends. Sometimes they'll tell you things and it seems like you're like, well, that kind of sounded off. But it's just me. That maybe it's just me. It's just my mind. It might not be just you. It might not be just your mind. They may be telling you something. And sometimes they tell it to you very blunt. They're very blunt about it. But you don't want to believe it. Especially in some communities. We don't take the conversations of mental health and mental wellness as serious as we should. So number three, truly, truly take the moments to think, to reflect, to pray, whatever you need to do to get your mental health and your wellness in alignment with the Holy Spirit and with God's word. Number one, He tells us to trust Him in all things. He also tells us to lean not on our own understanding. So sometimes we kind of go to the left and we're doing our own thing when we need to be leaning on Him. So we make sure we're going on the right path. But I know it's been a few minutes and I am truly thankful for you listening if you've been listening this whole time. But I'm going to ask you to share this with anyone who you think needs to hear this. Share it for someone who may need some encouragement and just letting them know that, hey, you're not off. But if something is off, then do reach out, seek help, seek support. Don't do this alone. If you feel that you are in a place that you're just not sure how to get out of, maybe you feel stuck, maybe you feel like you're in a rut, maybe you just like, I don't even know what my purpose is. I know I'm supposed to do something, but what it is, I don't even know. Number one, I'm going to encourage you to pray. I will always say that. Encourage you to pray and ask God to reveal it to you, or ask Him to send someone to help you and reveal it to you. But I'm also going to encourage you to send this to someone that probably sometimes says the wrong things half the time. And they just need a little help to understand that everything that comes out your mouth or comes to your mind does not need to come out your mouth, if you know what I mean. I love you, really, I do. But I encourage you all to take some time to reflect. First of all, to rest. Take some time to reset and take some time to reflect, because we all need a moment. We all need some time. If nothing else, we do need time with the Father in order for Him to then replenish what we've been given out. And so for Him to give us guidance and instruction on what to do in the days to come. So again, I wish you blessings. I send you blessings. I wish you a Merry, Merry Christmas, a Happy New Year, and feel free to reach out with any questions. Now, don't ask me a whole bunch of questions and expect to get a therapy session in a text. It's not happening, okay? But if you do need some help with getting resources or finding resources, I'll be more than happy to do so. This is a family-friendly channel, so be mindful what you're putting in my comments, please. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. But seriously, y'all, I am so honored and thankful for everyone that I've been able to speak with, connect with, or meet. And, looking forward to greater things in the future. Praying for you, praying blessings, and do know that the best is yet to come. Stay blessed.